speaker this afternoon is Dr. Sylvester Gaskin. Dr. Gaskin is a 15-year professional who has worked in K through 12 and higher education in a variety of functional areas. He currently works in academic medicine for the Association of American Medical Colleges, delivering leadership programming for medical school faculty, administrators, and support staff. In May 2022, Sylvester was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, agoraphobia, and severe anxiety caused from his time in higher education. He has been an avid supporter for students and professional colleagues to take on physical activities that help reduce stress, providing guidance and wisdom to those who are involved in powerlifting. He also has been an advocate for colleagues with mental health challenges, sharing his story around PTSD and anxiety to aspiring and entry-level professionals at multiple points in his career. Please welcome Sylvester to the stage as he shows us how to make it feel light and describes how powerlifting has guided his recovery with PTSD.
I see you, boo.
What I want to discuss today is how my career was upended by post-traumatic stress disorder. I had an amazing 15 years in the game with so many wonderful experiences and lifelong relationships. I had earned a doctorate degree in higher education. I was the highest ranking black male student affairs professional on my campus, and I was on my way to becoming a dean of students. And in the span of 9 weeks, everything I knew and wanted came to a sudden and crashing end. However, it was my hobby of powerlifting that became a refuge during a very dark and tumultuous time. So I'm gonna take you on a journey. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. I started hitting the weights in October 2021, right after I'd been promoted to Associate Dean of Students. My job was incredibly stressful, and so I signed up for a fundamentals class at an old school power gym by my house. The fundamentals are the back squat, the deadlift, and the bench press. There's a saying at the gym, and the saying that the lifters had, it ain't nothing but a stick with heavy circles at the end of it. Now, I learned quickly that powerlifting requires a good amount of humility. That stick with circles at the end, it does not care about you. It does not care about your troubles. It doesn't care about your past, it doesn't care about your identity, it don't give a damn about you at all. Every lift, that barbell dares you to pick it up and doesn't think that you can. And that simple motion is very difficult, yet intensely rewarding. Moving that stick with heavy circles became my new mission in life. It was a challenge that I didn't know it would save me later on. During the spring 2022 semester, my life just fell absolutely apart. I had added responsibilities and nothing I was doing was working. I couldn't replace departing staff. Every budget decision I made was questioned. I had student activists that were calling for my firing, and I was doing a whole bunch of extra work and not making any extra money. I was managing multiple student breakdowns, I was navigating interpersonal issues with staff, and I was still responding to late night crises on the duty phone. From mid-March to early May was the worst part of my career. I had one brutal week. It started with a student government impeachment, and it ended with the worst duty call I had ever experienced as a professional. And I found myself drinking an entire bottle of rye whiskey to deal with the stress. I had a massive case of compassion fatigue, I hated crowds, and I was having a recurrence of suicidal ideation. I was also having daily panic attacks in my office, and there would be times where my body would literally freeze walking across campus. I started having terrible flashbacks of tense situations I've been on, both on duty and on campus. One in particular had a terrible recurring nightmare of hearing the quivering voice of a student who would watch his roommate be murdered. On commencement day in 2022, I went to the gym, I went for a lift, and I noticed that the warm-up weights hurt, like they were heavy. Coincidentally, I had a doctor's appointment that day, and so when I go and the resident asks the question like, how you feeling today? I let everything out. And his remarks still stick to my head to this day. Yo man, Yes, no-brainer, you've got PTSD. A couple of weeks later, a therapist confirmed that diagnosis. So both the doctor and the therapist prescribed powerlifting as a part of the recovery plan while I took some time away from work. So during my leave, the gym truly became a second home. I would converse with coaches and competitive lifters, and some of them were working through PTSD themselves, and heavy lifting was a part of their own recovery. It was that time in the gym where my mind was the clearest. For the first few weeks of my leave, lifting was the only thing that calmed me down, and my mind didn't replay all the failures I had gone through the previous few months. I focused more on my form. I took my time. I saw my max weights increase, and I did notice a change in my physique. I was looking good. I needed the reminder that while I was a failure in my leadership role, I was not a failure at life. So about a month after returning from work, I woke up one morning and I had chest tightness and my left arm was painfully numb. So I did some meathead stuff. That's what we say at the gym. I took some aspirin and crushed bench day. Went to the gym. After the workout, I called the advice nurse and said, yeah, I got chest pain and I got a free ride to the ER in an ambulance. So I didn't have a heart attack. I was close. But the doctors told me I had an electrical fault in my heart and that the pain I felt was due to work stress and PTSD. So when the ER doctor asked me what did I do for exercise, and I told him that power lift, he said, it probably saved you from having a full-blown heart attack. Do not stop lifting. I got a consult from a cardiologist who told me that if I didn't make a career change and fix my diet, I was at risk of having an arrhythmic stroke. That did not sound good. And I'm under orders from my mother to not die. He told me that PTSD wasn't making things with my heart any better, but powerlifting was the healthy stress that the heart needed. So in that moment on that exam room bed, I had to make a decision. Do I stay in a career that's the only thing that I know, but the doctor's telling me it's gonna kill me? Or do I find something outside of this world that I know nothing about, but live a healthy lifestyle? By the time I walked to the car after the appointment, I knew my career in student affairs was over. It was done. But this is where the lessons of powerlifting kicked in. So I came to the realization sitting in the car when I turned on the admission that my dreams of being a senior student affairs officer were over. Like, you will never see me in the VPSA lounge. I'm probably never gonna be a pillar of the profession. I'm almost certain that this job is gonna kill me. But I had to learn how to pivot out of student affairs into something higher ed adjacent, which isn't easy to do at all. Like, it's very tough. But there were a few things that helped me that I gained from being at the gym that directly apply to my situation and to the field. There's three of them. Ready? Okay. First one is to have a spotter. So when someone's lifting at a competition or you're at the gym and you're lifting heavy like I did last week, there's usually somebody there or a team of people, they're called spotters, that load the weight and they support you through the lift. So like I dropped 275 on my chest, a spotter picked it off of my chest. As student affairs professionals, it's in our DNA to be spotters for students. It's like what we're good at. And to support them and cheer them on and be there when they fail. However, I found that when my diagnosis became public on campus, my network of spotters on campus shrunk. And people started actively avoiding me. Like, they would not talk to me, they wouldn't email me, they crossed the street when I walked down. However, at the gym, my support network of spotters grew exponentially. I also developed relationships with people inside and outside student affairs who experienced PTSD themselves and guided me through that career transition. It was the realization that I needed that I wasn't damaged, but I was someone who just needed a spotter through a transition. And it motivates me to be a spotter for others to this day. Second one is to improve your form. So lifting every day gave me a better understanding of how to regain control of my body. So post-traumatic stress disorder places your body in a fight or flight response. And it ultimately resulted in having severe panic attacks. So when I started really heavy lifting, I would feel panic attacks starting because I was often thinking about work. And so I had to train myself to understand the signs and use physical cues, to breathe into the stomach, tighten the core, flex the bar, rotate the hips, straighten the legs. engage the hamstrings in order to focus on the exercise. My therapist told me that the soreness, fatigue, and restlessness that I was experiencing were hallmarks of PTSD and were signs that my body was ultimately degrading. Over time, we can hit what is known as our allostatic low, which is the point where our body and mind hit their limit of stress and performance ultimately fails. Now, peep this. When I got sick, I was encouraged to use sick leave and to recover. But when I did, I was getting complaints that I wasn't in the office enough, which led me to return back to work, to get sicker, then take sick leave, hear the complaints again, when I should have just been recovering in the first place. Student Affairs has a culture that doesn't appreciate how the stress of our work impacts our overall health. Now, if we want to project this message of culture of care, professionals and supervisors need to know that rest and recovery are absolute musts. There's no way you can be able to perform and be for students if your body is unable to do the work. The third, and the most important, embrace the breakdown. So, enduring a PTSD diagnosis and associated career loss has been the biggest challenge of my life, and I've survived a car wreck and a divorce. I didn't think that I could have been prepared for something like this at all, but I quickly realized that powerlifting made me ready. So it's tough to stay in your program during a 5 a.m. lift session when it's cold outside and your body is sore, like this morning. Or it's difficult to stay dedicated to a diet that helps with muscle recovery. It really sucked. When in those weak moments that PTSD was trying to connect my failures at work to the failures at the gym. However, I've got a shirt from a fitness company. It says, "Embrace the breakdown." And what that meant to me was to see the change not as failure, but as redirection. So a couple weeks ago, I failed a PR attempt, a personal record attempt at the back squat. I didn't fail it, I just didn't get to depth. And I was furious. But instead of like getting angry and just wanting to quit and blame it on somebody or something, or it was the barbell, I don't know, I could have made any excuse. I embraced the failure, and I started to work to fix what wasn't working. Once I've adopted the mentality of embracing the breakdown, it was easier to make that career transition. I took every job rejection as an opportunity to improve my resume and to sharpen my interview questions, and it led me to the position that I'm in today. Now, I can imagine that there are a few of y'all in the audience that are dealing with PTSD and other associated illnesses. I'm not saying that the powerlifting is the panacea, the end-all be-all. Any movement is good. But I and others have found it to be a fantastic way to get healthy and to exercise those demons that haunt us. So, as I close, I'm gonna close with a little quick story. So there was one morning I woke up and I decided to hit a personal record, a PR, 1 rep max in a deadlift. The day before, I had been told by a colleague that word was spreading about my diagnosis and that there was a group of student activists who were going after some administrators. They were using my situation as a story, and they said that I had been used up and thrown away. And being talked about in that way by people who were using my situation for their own purposes, like, it made me angry. I'll be real, I was pissed. I was furious. I woke up, I saw that, I'm like, I'm lifting some shit today. We're gonna do this right now. So I get to the platform, I throw 325 on there. 3 plates on each side and 5s. It was my max at the time. I get to the platform, I do my stretches, I get in the position, I pull sumo. It is not cheating. It's not. I won't stand for sumo slander here. Rotated the hips, engage my core, engage the hamstrings, braced, pulled the slack out the bar, pulled it up. Once I locked out and put the bar back down, I collapsed and started crying. At that moment, one of the competitive lifters who I work out with, his name is Wes, he got off the elliptical machine and he walked over. And he told me, man, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what demons you're fighting, but I watched you at that lift. And I just have to tell you, you need to keep pulling. You need to keep fighting. Don't stop. Keep going. And I'll be honest with you, man. You have no idea how much that meant to me. I had lost my career. I had lost numerous colleagues, and there were times where I was certain I was going to lose my life. And the most impactful words I got came from a lifter at the gym. If you're working through PTSD or any illness caused by this work, all I can say is I need you to find the things that keep you pulling through. Right? Do not stop taking care of yourself. Do not stop advocating for your health. Do not stop fighting for healthier workspaces. And do not stop supporting your colleagues who are struggling. Thank you.